people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Part of the recent string of announcements via MVP Ring Magazine champion Caroline Dubois has ended her long-term coaching stint with Shane McGuigan. Dubois, 25, turned professional in October of 2021 and signed to be trained and managed by East London-based McGuigan. The pair have enjoyed a very fruitful relationship with Dubois, who is the ring's number 10 rated pound-for-pound female fighter, emerging as one of the hottest properties in the sport. She became a world champion for the first time in December of 2024. I'm not a big fan of these sudden changes. After being elevated from her position as interim champion when Katie Taylor vacated the WBC title, McGuigan steered her to 3 successful championship defenses before a unification against WBO champion Terry Harper on April 5th in the biggest fight of her career to date. The Southpaw beat Harper via UD to claim the WBO and Ring Magazine titles. I'm a big proponent of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. She had spent some time training at Kay Karoma's Knuckleheads boxing gym in Vegas ahead of that fight, while McGuigan stayed in London, which led to rumors of a split. However, she completed her camp in London and McGuigan was in her corner for the fight, but now the ring has learnt that they have officially parted ways, although doing so amicably. There is no confirmation on her next move, although Dubois recently uploaded a picture to her Instagram, which included Manny Robles. She will next defend her unified titles against America's Amelia Moore in the chief support proceeding, Mayer vs. Cameron, at Birmingham's BP Pulse Live Arena in August. Is it that Caroline Dubois feels she's learned all she can learn with Shane McGuigan and it's time for something new? Or is it Shane that has something going on that maybe he can't train Caroline anymore? I think anecdotally we'll get that answer when we see Ellie Scottney return to the ring, because Shane McGuigan has been training her also, and if he's in her corner but not in Caroline's, then it'll make it obvious it was Caroline who decided to go some other way. Caroline, who said it's been very disappointing not being able to land another unification fight. Caroline spent some time talking about her disappointment and not being able to secure a title unification fight just yet, as she aims to go undisputed and keeping busy in the meanwhile rather than sitting around and waiting for the big fights to come her way. Dubois would also call out some rivals who she believes to be ducking the smoke. Dubois, on why she's not unifying titles in her next fight. It's very disappointing. The goal was to fight either Elif Nur-Turan or Stephanie Hahn. Unfortunately, the Elif-Turan fight fell apart, and unfortunately, the Stephanie Hahn fight is something that has to wait, as she fought just recently. So she's resting or recovering, and hopefully we can get that fight at the end of the year. That's the plan. I'm disappointed with Elif. We sent her an offer. She turned it down, and yeah, at the end of the day, you can't force someone into the ring. Is that an according to Hoyle Duck from the Golden Turk? It could be, but it all depends on what the Golden Turk was offered. On leaving her longtime trainer, Shane McGuigan. There's a few reasons, I'm not going to go into them. At the end of the day, all I can say is the facts. I'm so happy with what we've achieved. I'm so happy for where I'm at, and I'm so excited for the future. And I know another fact is, I want to do better. I want to dominate. You have to train to dominate. You have to train. You have to push yourself. And I think the definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect a different result. So if you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done. Working with Manny Robles now, I've been with him for 3 weeks now, and it's been really good, really positive, great sparring. The work is good. I'm just happy to be in an exciting, booming gym. Seems that more and more people are starting to realize Manny's one of the best trainers in the industry. Manny's a guy to where as soon as he starts working with a fighter, you start seeing improvements. Which isn't the norm. Usually it takes a fighter a couple of fights before you really start to see what they've been working on, whereas with Manny, fighters improve noticeably almost immediately. So is that why Carolyn decided to leave Shane? Because she feels she has outgrown that relationship and she can't learn anything new under him. On Alycia Baumgardner not attending the festivities. I think she's a coward. At the end of the day, I think she knew I was going to be here. She knew that Michaela Mayer was going to be here. She probably just thought, nah, I don't want it. She doesn't want it. And I think it's a lame move. You come all the way out to the UK and you don't turn up?
Alycia went to the UK? For what?
You don't want to be in the mix of some big fights? You've got a stable full of opponents that could possibly be in with. You're not about it? I think it's real disappointing and it shows her character. As far as addressing Alycia, not being in attendance for the presser, well, she doesn't have very many friends there, now does she? But she does have a host of potential opponent options that make for bigger fights than the fights she's been fighting in for years now. That Mayer fight was a while back. This is the what have you done for me lately sport, and a lot of people feel like Alycia hasn't been up to much. She herself, in her own mind, maybe she thinks she's outgrown the boxing space and wishes to branch out to do other things, like what she's going to be doing in September on Season 5 of Special Forces. Reality TV? The fact of the matter is, any of those two fights, the Mayer rematch or the Dubois showdown, could have happened by now if Alycia wanted it to. So if they haven't happened, because she don't want it to. It's unfortunate for Carolyn because she can't get a unification, she can't get Alycia Baumgardner. Many of these fighters are on the same side of the street as her, but it's just not going on. Stephanie Hahn is with MVP, Alycia Baumgardner also. The longer the situation between Carolyn and Alycia drags on, the less you can defend Alycia for it, because what are you doing if you're not fighting her? What are you doing that's worth anybody's while? What's really keeping you at 130 pounds? Are you still there because you don't want to fight Carolyn? Because you know that if you move up, you're gonna have to? I'm a fan of Alycia Baumgardner. I have been for years, but I'm an even bigger fan of the sport, and I do care more about what's best for the sport. So Carolyn won't be unifying, but she won't be fighting Alycia either. She'll be facing unbeaten Amelia Moore on the undercard of Mayer versus Cameron, and that's the latest. Men's Cruiserweight news, David Benavidez versus Noel Mikaelian fight expected to be signed by week's end. David Benavidez's promoter has delivered a contract to Don King, expecting a Cruiserweight unification bout versus WBC champion Noel Mikaelian for November in the Southwest, to be signed by the end of the week. Simpson said the parties have verbally agreed to terms, adding, as soon as Armenia's Mikaelian signs, we have a fight. Lukowicz said the bout with Phoenix's Benavidez will most likely land in Vegas, although Phoenix and LA are also in play for the Prime Video DAZN pay-per-view bout. Already wearing the WBC light heavyweight title, Benavidez captured the WBA and WBO cruiserweight straps on May 2nd, stopping two-weight world champion Zurdo Ramirez in the 6th round at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. Mikaelian won the WBC by defeating former champion Badu Jack by decision in December in LA. While it appeared Mikaelian would turn to recent IBF champion Jai Opetaia, Benavidez's request to the WBC to move up a division for a title fight was granted, and Mikaelian switched to talks with David, a three-weight world champion at age 29. Lukowicz said Benavidez repeated his tradition of agreeing verbally to the financial terms the promoter presented him for the Mikaelian fight recently. He's done that from the start, whether it was $20,000 back then or the millions he's getting for this fight, Lukowicz said. He doesn't hesitate. He asks who he's fighting, I tell him, then he says yes. You know what bothers me the most about this situation? Noel was already in talks to fight Jai Opetaia, and if they would have been allowed to proceed, that fight would have got done by now. Whereas this fight isn't even finished. What bothers me about this situation is that it's part of an effort to freeze Jai Opetaia out of the world title picture, because David knows that Jai wants to fight him, but David also said, well, Jai doesn't have a belt, so they don't have a reason to fight, so that when Jai runs out and tries to get one, you block him. With the help of the World Boxing Council. As soon as they found out Jai's negotiating for a fight with Noel, they decide to order a fight between Noel and David. So now he's not at liberty to do the fight with Jai, because if he does, he might get stripped. That's textbook collusion right there. When a sanctioning body is working in tandem with a promoter, that's collusion. What bothers me about this situation is these jackasses have the audacity to try to sell Benavidez versus Mikaelian as a pay-per-view where a Jai Opataya fight would not be. That would have been on Paramount, not pay-per-view. But it's already confirmed that David's fight is going to run you in the neighborhood of $75 to $80 for an opponent that most boxing fans aren't even familiar with, don't follow, for a fight they weren't asking for, typical of the American boxing scene, overcharging you for what you don't want and depriving you of what you do. Because the biggest fight in the division is the Opataya fight. Everybody knows that. And for the biggest money. I can tell you now that he will not make with Noel Mikaelian at the box office what he could be making fighting Jai Opataya. The Jai Opataya fight pays more because of who's going to put up the money, because of who's going to pay for it. Zuffa, Sella, Turkey. Best money in boxing right now. Varying reactions to the same announcement. A Twitter user that goes by the name Pound for Pound seems happy about it, saying, "Let's see if everyone has the same energy for Boots unifying 3 belts with Josh Kelly. Y'all pick and choose who you want to criticize, but Boots and Benavidez are doing the exact same thing, taking belts off champions." Jai Opataya is a champion. He's the Ring Magazine and lineal champion, which in my book is a lot more important than just some alphabet title. Noel Mikaelian can wait. Nobody's saying that David shouldn't fight him, just that he shouldn't be fighting him now, not if Jai's available. What about his arguments ain't gonna sell no pay-per-views? You think you're saying something? Nobody's gonna buy that fight. I don't even think you're gonna buy that fucking fight. More sobering take from a subscriber here on the channel. Caballo Loco said Benavidez will slowly fade away. As a matter of fact, he already is. Cruiserweight is the end of the road for David Benavidez. People keep talking about the title that he still holds at light heavyweight as if he's gonna go back down to light heavyweight. Wake up and smell the protein powder. He's never gonna fight at light heavyweight again, folks. He's gonna stay at cruiser, henceforth. And at cruiser, doesn't have a healthy supply of opponents, not ones that belong behind a paywall, not Noel Mikaelian. Who do you honestly think is gonna kick out $75 or $80 for that? Talk up that fight all you want with your whataboutism arguments. When push comes to shove, even the people claiming to support that fight ain't gonna buy it. David ain't gonna make but so much from that fight. Fighting Jai Opataya pays better, though, of course. It's a riskier fight. David's not about the risky fights. That's why he never has them. As American boxing sinks into further decline and these dumb dullards continue to make stupid arguments to defend their favorite fighters as if that's gonna sell the pay-per-views. They don't want David to fight Jai because they don't want David to fight anybody that might beat him. They don't want David to lose. It's fitting that today marks the 3-year anniversary, 3 years to the day of Terrence Crawford's destruction over Errol Spence Jr. Do you think they want to go through that again with another PBC fighter, another one of their flagship fighters? You notice it's always these guys, proponents of the PBC and their fighters, that are arguing against the fight. Why a fight shouldn't happen, even if it's the best fight in the division. They did it for years with Crawford and Spence, and they're doing it now with David and Opataya, except that David has a lot less options to choose from in the Cruiserweight division than Spence did at welter. Oh, you can hide behind a Mikaelian fight now, but then after that, what are you going to do? And after that, the Jai Opataya fight is quite literally the biggest fight for David for the biggest money, and he's got very little alternatives because I hardly think he's going to move up to heavyweight. They need him alive up there. You're going to have to deal with this, David, sooner or later, whether your fans like it or not. And now it's time for another installment of what has fast become one of the most popular segments here on the channel. Not the Ring IQ hate mail, but the Ring IQ mailbag, which is a bit more friendly. Bobby D. My previous video where I talked about Oscar De La Hoya's undue criticisms of Dana White and why Dana White runs a soluble business and Oscar doesn't. Bobby D said, guys, what is so hard to understand about the UFC's success? They pay the fighters 17%. Any of the major boxing promoters would make a killing paying 17%. Bobby, that's the point. Dana White doesn't cave to his fighters the way boxing promoters do. He doesn't cater to their overblown purse demands, so his company consistently turns over a profit, whereas boxing promoters are often in the red.
Why would you think that we don't understand that, or that I don't understand that when I said that already?
People keep acting like because Dana White keeps a cap on what the fighters in his UFC can earn, that makes him a bad guy, when they're the ones who choose to fight for that federation. There are others. If you don't like Dana White's UFC, go to the PFL. Go to Japan. Go to Risen.
Go to hell.
I don't feel sorry for these fucking MMA guys, because if not for Dana White's UFC, what other outlet would they have had? It's the biggest promotion in all of mixed martial arts, but if you don't like it, you can try your chances with somebody else. You're not forced to sign to the UFC. You choose to.
Because they give you the biggest platform.
If they've got a fix on the spending to where they're not in the red as often as boxing promoters are, I would call that smart.
Maybe you might call it greedy.
Because the boxers you see in the sport of boxing aren't greedy. The ones who think it's always supposed to work out to where they get more money, even when it doesn't make sense.
Oh, but they're the ones fighting.
Who fucking cares if they're the ones fighting? Fighters are replaceable. Fighters are a dime a dozen. Who are the ones paying for the location?
The venue.
The promotion. The marketing. Who's paying to put it all together? Because it's not the fucking fighters. Who sets up the undercard? The undercard fighters. Who make sure that they get paid? Who's got to do business with the broadcasters and the sanctioning bodies? Who's putting it all together? Because it's not the fucking fighters.
Who's balancing the budget? The budget they get from a broadcaster to do shows throughout the calendar year to ensure that that money is being spent responsibly.
Bobby, you're all right. But don't come to me with this fighter first bullshit. Don't come to me with your violins about athletes who get paid more than the national average.
You're always hearing about how UFC fighters make peanuts on the dollar when they make more than your average American. A lot more.
And there's a reason that the UFC as a promotion doesn't have all the same problems that a lot of boxing promoters have, constantly operating at a deficit to satisfy the overblown financial demands of the fighters.
Why do you think there are so many pay-per-views in boxing now?
It's because the fighters want an arm and a leg every single time they get out there, which has not helped to grow the sport. It's shrunken the size of the audience. I wouldn't call that a good thing. Would you?
So please don't come to me with this fighter first bullshit.
Never once did I say that the UFC's infrastructure was hard to understand. I understand it just fine. That Dana White runs a tight ship, tighter than what you see from many promoters in the sport of boxing, and that's why they consistently stay in the black.
In 2026, it's actually a lot cheaper to be a fan of mixed martial arts, Dana White's UFC, than it is to be a fan of boxing. Why?
Their move over to Paramount has eliminated the constant string of pay-per-views that you were seeing before, whereas boxing is scaling up efforts to sell more pay-per-views, more box office fights that nobody's buying.
So don't come to me with this fighter first bullshit. Putting the fighters first and giving them so much autonomy to where they can waste everybody's time and everybody's money. That's what's wrong with boxing.
That's why it's so expensive to watch now. Or do you think you should have to pay $75 to $80 to watch David Benavidez versus a nondescript Armenian? $60 to $70 to watch Teofimo Lopez coming off a loss box a retard in Rowley.
Errol Spence Jr. coming off a 3-year hiatus and a loss against Tim Tszyu. You think you should have to pay extra to see that? Because when you advocate for what you're advocating for, that's what you're doing.
That's basically what you're saying, that you're okay with all of that. Well, excuse me, but I'm not.